Welcome to A Pint with Seaniebee. We're in our sponsors bar again, Houndstooth Pub on 37th and 8th Avenue, sister bar to Stitch Bar across the street, and these are our sponsors. And the owner, Nick Cohen, is a good friend of mine. He has said that anyone who listens to this, and the numbers are growing, who is in New York, pop into either of those establishments, mention A Pint with Seaniebee, and you get a free pint from the establishment. I'm here today with an ex-colleague of mine, a guy who's a cool dude, and I worked with first in JWT back in 2008. His name is Keni Thacker. He just told me his title, and I've already forgotten it, which is in charge of...
What am I in charge of? I don't even know. It changes all the time. But basically, I'm the senior event technology specialist at J. Walter Thompson. I have been for the last going on 10 years. So, I hang out with the global CEO a lot, cool guys like Seaniebee.
When I first joined JWT, Kenny was like the magic guy who made everything happen for our big pitches. He was always there with a smile on his face, really cool. We were all in a flap getting ready for big presentations in Atlanta or something, and he somehow manages to get everything sort of working for us. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about his role for the last 5 years, which has been in charge of the diversity issue, I'll call it, in JWT and across the board in advertising, not just in New York, but across the world, really, I guess, but especially in America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I call myself a diversity advocate. For all the diversity and inclusion programs that we did at J. Walter Thompson.
Now, I've worked for JW and I've worked for a couple of other big agencies in America. To me, the issue always felt like it was a kind of a lip service exercise, that agencies were not doing this from a proactive point of view, but from a reactive point of view. They were getting flack, rightly so, I think. Give me an overview of maybe how that issue has become more important in the eyes of agencies.
Well, just to go back to the flack that you were talking about, probably in the 80s or so, there was a class action lawsuit that was filed against the advertising industry, period. Okay. Because there just wasn't enough minorities and women in the business or in leadership positions. So it really started back then, but to go back even farther, back in about 50 years ago, a gentleman by the name of Bill Sharp started the basic advertising course that ushered in people of color and different backgrounds into advertising. And Bill Sharp was actually the first group copy supervisor at J. Walter Thompson. Rest in peace.
He was an African-American?
African-American.
Okay.
And he wrote a book actually called How to Get a Job in Advertising and Be Black Anyway.
Right.
You can get it on digital download.
Around the same time as him, there was a great, my favorite movie about advertising, not a lot of people know of it. It's called Putney Swope, which you're going to have a look at. But Putney Swope, I think, is available on YouTube. It's an absolute masterpiece. It's done by Robert Downey Jr.'s father, also called Robert Downey, and it's about what happens if Black Panthers took over Madison Avenue, and it's fucking whacked out there, but really good. So your point is that maybe 40 years ago, this was showing fine signs of being okay, and then probably 70s and 80s it just didn't happen, right? Because we had this guy who was obviously a figurehead. Why didn't it happen?
When you're used to something, right, you kind of don't see outside of your comfort zone. So I don't think people wanted to do that, or they just didn't felt like it was their problem. You know what I mean? If they felt like, oh, well, things work well with this person that has a similar background as I do, probably went to a similar college, maybe, grew up in a similar home. Those are the kind of people they trust necessarily. So I think it was done unconsciously. People of color, either they get turned off because they're not being respected or they're not being heard. And they're like, well, maybe this business isn't for me. Maybe I can go somewhere where there's a couple other people. Well, I'm not the elephant in the room. Like a friend of mine by the name of Lincoln Stevens, he wrote an article in CNN Today called The Elephant in the Room that just breaks down the whole diversity problem and how it can be fixed.
The industry, for some reason, decided, whether by accident or design, that it would splinter off into specialist companies that target African Americans or that target Hispanics, and it was almost like that was their kind of excuse for saying, oh, well, there's agencies that are doing those different sort of races, if you
exactly.
want, which is kind of stupid. But I kind of see where I can understand the Spanish English language issue, but I can't really understand the. I mean, when you talk about products that African Americans use differently, I did work on Gillette, and it was very intriguing to me because I was global head of strategy at BBDO for that, and Procter and Gamble owns Gillette. And I remember being on a call once, and this is not about employment, this is more just straight up racism, where the Russians were saying, if you're making this ad, do not put a black person in it. And it's interesting for a couple of reasons. Of course, everybody went, oh right, we won't. Right.
So quick to
and I don't know whether you've ever been to Russia. Russia is one of the most fucking TV racist countries I've ever been in my life. I don't care. I'm not even saying with apologies to any Russians listening, because you are, and there's my little bit of racism. And I'm sure it's a generalization. But anyway, so you have this position where you have a massive brand that's supposed to be empowering. Like Gillette is all about getting men to be their best, and here they were. They could have taken a stand right there, and if you were maybe Nike, or if you were a braver brand and not P&G owned, you might have gone, yeah, you know what, we're going to do all of our ads with black people in Russia because we might change the debate. And I found that very deeply uncomfortable in that call. Talk to me a bit about just the dynamic of the industry and how it has pigeonholed races, and is that partly contributing to the problem? What do you think?
I think it has, because my wife always says people use labels because they don't know what else to use. It's almost like cursing sometimes. We're going to call this group the whatever group. We're going to call this the African American pioneers, and we're going to call this the Asian trailblazers, and we're going to call this the Hispanic heroes, or whatever. But it's all because they feel like people need to belong to something. Unfortunately, millennials can feel that way. They don't feel like they need to belong to shit. They just exist. You know what I mean? Because regardless of, to get off track to think about, the police situation with African Americans and minorities and everything like that, they're getting a new dose of Rodney King from '92 right now. But they're viewing it as a generation. They don't view racism as a black people's problem. Who's they? The cops. Millennials. Okay. They view it as more as a generational problem. Even though this was happening in the 80s, 90s, a little bit in the between 2000 and 2010, but really a lot more between 2010 and now. They're more viewing it as a generational problem. So
meaning what?
Meaning that this is just happening to us.
Irrespective of race or color.
Irrespective of race or color. Okay. And that's why see a lot. And that's why you see a lot of millennials in like marches and stuff like that, because like they feel like, well, my college roommate or the three guys down in my psych class was black. He's my friend. Yeah. It could fucking happen to me too, or it could happen to him. I don't want that to happen to
Has the number of say African American protesters risen?
I think it has, but like the perfect person to answer that question would probably be my mom, because she marched in Selma. Yeah. And like I have an aunt and uncle, my uncle that passed away, but I have an aunt who's still alive, who's white, who I call her my aunt, and she marched in Selma too. Yeah. So I don't know, like, the comparison.
I think back then there was very few people who weren't of color marching. Yeah. Partly possibly because they were afraid, but partly because a lot of them were fucking racist. Yeah. So exactly, a lot of them definitely. There was a major racism problem in the country. Today, I think it's still there, but it's buried a little bit.
I think it's still there, and actually, I don't think it is buried anymore, because now, I mean, obviously with technology and social media, everyone has a motherfucking opinion. Yeah. You know what I mean? But they can be, how can I use it? Keyboard gangsters, and they can say it from this anonymous Twitter account and say all these really horrible and like nasty things about anyone. Yeah. Not, even someone else who's white, just because they're supporting a certain movement or whatever the case may be, and you'll never know who that person is, and they don't have to be held responsible. Yeah. Either. Before social media was like a really big thing, everyone kind of like, it was almost like with the LGBT community, people could just like kind of be in the closet and not come out, but, kind of be on the low. We kind of had on the low racists. Yeah. But now people are like, hell with it. I can say whatever the fuck I want. I mean, look at the guy who's running for president right now. Yeah. There's no conscience to anything that this guy is saying. He can say whatever he wants, but he knows some part of motherfucking America is going to be like, yeah, this guy should be our next fucking president, even though he sounds like fucking Hitler.
So what has happened is, and you're very carefully brought in the social media. What has happened is people are politically correct in their views. So they don't, and then suddenly Trump comes along and goes, hey, and suddenly everyone's allowed to go, yeah, fuck it, you know. And it's not just about blacks; it's about everything.
Yeah, it's about everything. I mean, he hates white people.
He's allowing, he's giving people permission to bring their worst side out.
Yeah, and that's the part that scares me, because there's people that agree. Yeah. And it's people agree that you know. Yeah. You know, like when I found out several people that I knew agreed with him, I kind of distanced myself with them, because I'm like, then if you really agree with him, then why were we ever kind of friends?
I'm noticing a lot of people I've caught a few people who are mortified that they've liked him or something. You know what I mean? Like, because people, I don't want to talk about politics. No, you talk about this guy. If you're saying that a new fascist, let's call a spade a spade, is going to take over. I mean, we're recording this where it looks really likely that he's going to become the GOP nomination.
There's no doubt. I mean, quote me on that. I mean, you're going to hear this months from now, but he will be.
It's just bizarre. Tell me a bit of a more macro thing about how you see the country.
I mean,
in the race, in that eye of race.
2016 is 1992, except with cameras, but police still get off. And all these other terrible things are happening. The only difference is that now we have all these different medias that the news gets out, you know, in the split of a second and everything like that. But as far as like people being accountable for the terrible things that are happening to people of color, regardless if they're, you know, black, Hispanic, or Asian, or whatever the case may be, like no one's being really held accountable for any of these horrible things that are happening, especially when it comes to people that are unarmed. I mean, like, look, if a guy is toting around a gun, you know, okay, I get it. But like, if the guy is just running away or selling a cigarette,
we've seen executions.
I mean, literally. And this is happening more here in America than any other place on the planet, and it's setting us back. And you're breeding like this kind of hate amongst the youth. And the reason why I bring up the youth, obviously, because, you know, I have a daughter. Sometimes she doesn't understand like what's happening on the television when we're watching CNN, and she's seeing Baltimore burning, or she's seeing Ferguson burning, or whatever city it is that week. And unfortunately, that's how it's been lately. It's like every other week something happened. And I tweeted actually something last year. I said, you think your job sucks? Imagine being a good cop in 2015. But when teenage boys don't see the age of 18 because they're gunned down by police, just because, they got in a tussle, or he was speeding, or his music was loud.
No, I mean, as an outsider from Ireland looking in, and again, the conversations we have in Europe about America, really, you're as an outsider looking in, you can often isolate and identify the real problem. That if the guns thing was sorted out, I think a huge amount of this would go away.
Totally.
Twitchy cops.
Totally.
You know, every black man is carrying a gun and might kill me. I mean, that's in people's heads.
Yes.
The irony is that you've got just as much likelihood as, you know, the hunky guys going to have a gun.
And especially in Texas, when it's a gun carrying state, you know, so everyone's packing.
I have this thing about like the need to have debate and dialogue that's intelligent and going to hopefully move things forward in a good way. You have on the one side fascists like Trump, and the problem is, as soon as you start straying into discussing Muslims or black people or whatever, you're very easily tarred with that brush. And so on the other side, you have regressive leftism, which is this whole idea that you mustn't say anything bad about anybody. You know, you mustn't criticize Islam. Well, Islam, I think, needs to be criticized in a kind of constructive way, but not in a way that says, you know, we're going to throw acid or we're going to beat up Muslims in the street. I think it's a circle. Eventually, if you become so regressive left, you become fascist because you're hiding, you're tamping down the debate that needs to happen to make sure that the fascist doesn't get into power. Where do you think is the solution?
The solution, Sean, I think, is having an open and honest conversation, minus the anger.
Yeah.
Minus the anger.
Yeah.
People are so pissed off because mothers are tired of losing their children, fathers are tired of losing their children. And the laws kind of need to work for everyone the same and not just certain specific people. God forbid, I get into like a verbal jousting match with a police officer. I don't know if I'm going to make it out alive.
No. I completely understand, and it's scary. What was your background? Where did you come from?
I went to a historical black college. That's an interesting fact about me. A lot of people.
Are you from New York?
No, I was born in Washington, D.C. I was born in Washington, D.C. Me and my mom moved to New York right before I graduated from high school. So I still graduated from high school in the D.C., Maryland area.
Just a segue. I went down just before I left. I was a bit disillusioned, as I usually am many times. But I left a few years ago, and I went down on my own to Washington, just to see the intention of what they meant. And as I used to say, that the guys will be turning in their statues, I think, if they saw what America's become. But it's quite inspiring down there.
It's totally inspiring. I mean, I've been down there.
You can see the intention of America in Washington D.C. everywhere you go. It's great.
It's clean.
So had your brothers and sisters, or
only child? Okay, only child. So yeah, we.
Now, what did your mom do?
My mom right now is an adjunct professor at Rutgers University for women's studies. She's actually a PhD. So I have a doctor mom. She doesn't cure cancer, but she helps people.
So did she push you hard?
No, man. Like my mom is probably like greatest mom of all time. I'm pretty sure everyone feels that way about their moms, because my work really didn't change until she retired. And she retired actually from the UN.
Oh, okay.
So my mom's always been working on like global women's issues and things of that nature. Well, she left Rutgers, went to the UN, retired from the UN, and now is back at Rutgers teaching women's studies. So she kind of flip-flopped back and forth working back and forth in New York, but the year she retired is also the year she got her PhD at 70 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, so my mom's not, and she's wrote a couple books and all that, whatever. She's pretty awesome.
Well, how does she view the situation?
Well, my mom views it how you stated it actually when we first started. Like, she feels like it's lip service.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're just going to do like the bare minimum to make it seem like...
So we don't get sued.
So we don't get sued. Exactly.
Hey, we got this guy.
Yeah, exactly. We got this guy. But she is, next to my wife and my daughter, is one of my biggest supporters. Yeah. So she always felt like my ideas are just too much for some entities to handle.
Yeah.
So when I did...
But just stick with that for a second, because... I know what it's like in JWT, and I'm able to say this because I've left. You're not expressing the views of JWT here. Nah. But how hard is it when you know you are that guy, and then it doesn't matter if it's JWT, supposing it's any big ad agency, and you're because they all have them, right? They all don't,
dude. Okay. Oh my God, 60% of most advertising agencies do not have a leader of diversity.
Okay, so JWT, we have to give
plan to solve the fucking
so
problem.
we have to give some ups to JWT there. How hard is it? How hard is it when you're in the room to kind of get the feeling that the real leadership of the company is behind your ideas?
I mean, and Sean, I've known you for a while. To be honest, it's about giving a shit. That's my straight up answer right there. It's about having people that really care. Yeah. Regardless of what their background is, like, you have to give a shit.
Yeah.
I know people that are chief diversity officers at other agencies and everything like that, and they are doing their best, but at the end of the day, it always comes down to fucking funding. Yeah. Because like, we couldn't put out and we can't sponsor this and da-da-da-da-da. So in this new arena of advertising called, diversity, in which all these problems could slowly get a fix. Like, I would say in 2014, 2014, went out to LA for a diversity conference. I'll bring it up because a friend of mine is the founder of it. It's called the Ad Color Awards and Conference.
Right.
It's 2 days. All diversity people, all different backgrounds. They come to this. There's a conference the first day, celebrity panels, just regular people from diversity panels. Leo Burnett presented a campaign called No 266. So the word no, 266.
Yeah.
And they predicted that in order for advertising in order for multicultural people to just even out their white counterparts, it will take 66 years.
Wow.
And this was the campaign that they did while they were during the conference, that it will take 66 years for the industry to like fully be diverse. And that's a long time.
So let me just ask a devil's advocate question here. There's a numbers game here that they're playing in that, which is, and I understand it and I agree with it, that you know, when you walk into an ad agency, in an ideal situation, there is 100 people, and the proportions of people across the agency are all reflective mirror image of the city in which we live, right?
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about basketball.
Okay.
And how African American basketballers, the white men can't jump, right? Yeah. I never played basketball. What if basketball, and I'm being devil's advocate here, said, you know, we've got a real problem. I mean, imagine if basketball was all played by white guys, right? and tall black guys weren't getting a look in.
Yeah.
And they go, and also we're better than you fuckers. But let's just say the NBA said, you know, it's going to take 66 years for 4 players on each team to be white and 2 black. So that's, or, you know, 3 and 5, 3 and 2. Tell me what you think about that.
I mean, it's hard to think about that because the NBA started out as an all-white league anyway.
I know.
So
you know where I'm going. You know where I'm going with it. It's a good example because it's a meritocracy.
Yeah.
The best people should be in the agency, irrespective of color.
Yes,
and race.
I totally
is
agree.
what we're talking
I totally
about.
agree.
In the same way that
Yeah.
any team that starts hiring too many white guys in basketball is not going to compete.
Yeah.
Because African Americans are better at basketball. They have, I guess, they've got longer arms and they're taller or whatever it is. So this idea of meritocracy, I got into trouble with, I was interviewing the head of civil rights from Connecticut, a girl called Cheryl, and I was just, again, spoofing her up a bit, but I was saying, like, when I came, and this is true, you know this, because when I came to work in advertising, in strategy planning for 27 years, I found that female planners were better than men. Okay, this is a basketball comment. Generally speaking, women were more empathetic. They did a lot more shopping. They understood a lot more, you know. So I didn't discriminate against men. Clearly, if I was saying this the other way around, I'd be in deep trouble right now. But I'm saying that I would generally be more favorable at interview because I have gone to so many interviews with stupid male planners towards women in advertising.
Yeah.
I got put. She fucking killed me for that. She said, "Oh, you're just being a, you know, you're that's discrimination." And like we were, of course, using it for the same purposes as I use the basketball analogy. And I want to have the conversation. I don't want someone to say, "Sean, the fucking racist" or whatever. How does that grab you? Because I can't, like, well, let's go back then. Are the schools churning out an equal number of Hispanic, African American, and Caucasian copywriters or art directors?
I don't.
And is
think
that
so.
where we should start?
I don't think so. I'm here because you know I can give my fucking opinion. I feel like no, the schools are not
right
because one, and I have a degree in education, so I don't have a degree in fucking advertising, but somehow I know a lot about it now. I feel advertising as a career choice is never one of the first ones put in front of people of color. And even historically.
Why?
Because there's just not that many that were in the business to reference to.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why.
So mentors are very important.
Mentors is huge.
Right.
Mentors is
Which
huge.
you are a mentor for these people.
Yeah, you could say that.
You know,
I mean, I am.
But what I mean by when I say these people, I mean people who just would not normally consider because of...
Yeah, but I mean, I've been mentors to African American kids and white kids. I know. The same. But I feel that advertising is just not one of those careers that comes around on career day. Yeah. You know, like if you could think back when you were a teenager and they had career day in high school, like was there ever a fucking ad man there? 10 times out of 10, no. Right?
What's it like in Wall Street? Worse?
Yeah. I mean, it's just like Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
You know,
Silicon Valley's bad too, right?
Yeah, Silicon Valley sucks. Silicon Valley sucks.
I think I'd love to hear the most racist employer.
But this is what I'll say about Silicon Valley, and other advertisers, if you're listening to this, you can hate me now and send me mean tweets. But at least Silicon Valley is transparent about their shit.
Right. Like
at least they put out their percentages, regardless of how low they are. And I mean, I'm talking about percentages under 5%.
Yeah.
At least they're transparent about it. Ad agencies, not too transparent about their problem. Not too transparent about their problem at all. Like, we have the Ad Color Awards, and that's really great. And we have the Multicultural Advertising Internship Program, and you have the Minority Advertising Training Program out on the West Coast. And, you have these small little entities that are doing the best that they can with the resources that they can get. But as far as transparency, I do not feel advertising is as transparent as the tech industry.
So they don't produce figures, no?
I haven't seen one agency produce figures. I've not seen anything.
They all have them too because they're
petrified. They have them because they have to report them to the government. Yeah. But and you probably remember, a gentleman by the name of Derek Goss when you were there. But people used to confuse me and him. Yeah. And he's short.
He is short.
But people used to confuse me and him. Or Yusuf. I don't know if you remember Yusuf.
Yeah.
When
Yusuf, he had mad hair.
Yeah, I was like, Yusuf. When he told me he was leaving, I was like,
there was only you, Yusuf, Rob, the English guy.
Rob, and Rob's 3 feet taller than I am.
Yeah.
That's my boy.
So literally, I was just trying to think. I could. Yeah, they're the only four.
If we can count them on one hand, Sean.
Yeah.
There's a fucking problem. Especially when it comes to client-facing, and in my case, I'm just going to say client-facing black males.
Yeah.
Because there's dick as far as client-facing black females.
Yeah. Well, you can learn client service.
Yeah.
You're not born.
Yeah.
You can be taught to say yes. But can you learn how to do copywriting? I believe you can.
But as far as the schools putting out numbers equal to their white counterparts, no, they're not.
Yeah.
I know of kids that just came out of college, and they say, I was one of 3 black kids in my major of advertising.
So where do the creative Hispanic and African Americans end up? The creative ones, the artists, the writers.
Either they're starving artists, kind of doing their thing, or they kind of settle for a job in whatever other industry they can, get into.
I must say, again,
or their college doesn't even have an ad program.
Yeah.
Let's even put that out there. Because, for instance, being a historically black college, I know that a lot of historically black colleges do not have advertising programs.
Yeah.
I mean, a big school like Howard University, they have the Advertising School of Excellence.
Yeah.
That's Howard University. That's a big black college. And everyone's heard about Howard University.
Yeah.
But my alma mater, Lincoln University, which is actually the very first historically black college ever,
right,
did not.
Where is that?
That's in Pennsylvania. It's 3 hours away.
And you learned how to you did an education degree, did you?
Yeah, I had an education.
And did you do teaching at one stage?
No, because I didn't want to tell people their kids were dumb. Right.
So one of the things that you do, which I'm really intrigued by, is you because we're friends on Facebook, and I have my own stupidity on Facebook, but you write you believe in writing sort of inspirational quotes and stuff. Yeah. Tell me about that.
Oh, well, those are just called Thackerisms, basically.
Yeah, but it's cool that you do that.
And I mean, it's just...
how did you start coming up with that idea?
Because... And this may be a little Kanye-ish of me, but this is, way for Kanye was having meltdowns in public. But Sean, I always felt it was pompous when I see people quoting Socrates and great, Confucius and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, because I was like, I didn't come up with that shit. And not that it's shit, because there are certain things that Confucius said, Martin Luther King, whoever, that speaks to me. Yeah. But no one speaks to me more than myself. Maybe coming from only child, I had a lot of time to myself, and I was talking to myself.
That's great.
But those things that I write are just things that that just speak to me, and they come to me at odd hours of the day and the night or whatever, or some things I see or whatever. I mean, like once, I'm in the liquor store buying a bottle of God knows what, probably vodka most of the time, and the liquor store in my neighborhood also sells lottery tickets. Mm-hmm. And there's more people buying lottery tickets than buying booze. Yeah. And that, to me, struck something. And I was like, you should spend less time scratching off lottery tickets and scratching off goals to make your life better.
Oh, okay.
But
I think it's. I mean, that's just the only person I've met who because there's a certain. There's a certain confidence required to put yourself out there. Yeah. It's like, I came up with this, it's my line. I mean, a lot of people are, but they're good. They're good. I like them.
That it's crazy. I'm like, I know I quote myself and it may sound crazy, but then when they listen to what it says, it speaks to them. And I'm glad, like, it has been able to touch, like, some people and everything like that. Like,
But you're a trained educator. You're also a mentor now.
Yes.
And those are things that mentors have to do, is give people pithy, inspirational things that they can go. And I remember listening to an interview, and you mentioned that you do them so that your daughter is framed in such a way that she can feel her father was trying. Where do you see the future? Like your daughter's what, 5 or 6 now?
6 in.
I'm very
a couple
good.
Of days, 16 days.
I'm very good when I come on these interviews, because Facebook just tells you the age of
16.
kids.
She'll be 6 in 16 days.
And she's adorable. And
she's
a princess. What's her future going to be like?
Man, I mean, I'm doing my best like every day just to kind of be like the right role model for her. Obviously, being around and being with her, being with my wife. We're still married, thank God. She puts up with me too. But I just want to be that role model. The one thing, Sean, and you probably didn't know about this about me, is that I grew up without a father.
Right.
So that automatically puts me in like 6th gear as far as like trying to be the right role model for her, because like I never really had that many male role models in my life. My role model was always my mom. I mean, like my best friend's dad, I consider like my dad. I call him dad. Right. Like I sent him a picture of me and my daughter the other day. He said, "Have a great day, Dad." Right. And he was like, "Yeah, keep protecting your queens." And I'm like, "Cool." Right. But like for her, I try to just give her a perception of the world that it's not perfect. But I don't tell her, "Oh, white people are racist and black people are crazy and Hispanic people will stab you." No, nothing like that. More just like, this is the path you need to be on. Like, for instance, I remember one Sunday I had to go into the office to do something really quick, and we went into the office. I took her with me because I take her pretty much everywhere I go. And we walked into the office, and there was a guy on the corner of Lex and 45th. Yeah. And it was right when fall was almost turning into winter, and there was a guy standing there panhandling for money, and he had no shoes. And I don't even think he had on socks. We saw him, and we kind of just walked by, and we went into the office, walked back. We're walking back to my car, and he was still out there, and I got her a little treat from a cupcake store, and I was like, he's still out there. So we walked back into the office, and she was like, "Daddy, what are we walking back into the office for?" And I said, "We're going to do something for that guy standing on the corner." For some reason, I kept a pack of socks. Weird, at the office. But we grabbed that brand new pack of socks, and we took him down to that guy, and I had her hand him to the guy that had no socks on. And he broke down crying. And he asked me my name. I was like, "My name does not matter." Yeah. I was like, "We just want to help you out. It's cold out here. You take care of yourself." And I explained to her that this is what we do when people we were put in a position to have socks, to have shoes. But this guy, through some, bad luck, does not have socks or shoes. So this is what we do. We help people. She was probably 4 then, but she was like, okay, Daddy, if that's what we do, then we help people.
So a huge part of front and center of your moral compass is this idea that you're trying to fix the issue that you didn't have a father fix.
Yes, and that's a big thing. And sometimes I'm a little hard on her and everything like that because I just want her to be great at everything that she puts her mind into. I want her to be great at school. So like on top of like her schoolwork that she already does, like I have textbooks that we work out of, but that's the reason why she's like probably one of the brightest kids in her class. No disrespect to the other kids, but that's probably why, because on top of the schoolwork that she does, we come home and we do work not even assigned by her teacher.
I think that's, we could spend a whole other podcast talking about the education system here, but I find I just think the simple things of presidents of America, major mountain ranges, major cities, geography, it's not being taught. I remember somebody like of 22 saying to me, "Why do I need to know that?" To be fair, he said, "I have it in my phone.
I can just Google it. It's easy.
And I'm like, that's really disappointing. I think you need to know because there's certain things as a human being you need to know. Like if you take your drive on diversity and your little daughter out another layer, it's the world and it's climate change and it's trying to fix things, and again the same things apply. We have to have the discussion without anger. But if people are stupid, there's one of my other guests talks about the war on intelligence. It's like people who are fucking smarter. Why are you so smart? You don't need to be that smart. It's almost like a character flaw.
My passion just has always been to have this open conversation. The problem is also, I feel like the pipeline in which the industry is depending on getting candidates, like it just needs to be looked at again. We kind of rely on the same schools and everything like that, and nothing wrong with the schools that are giving us these people, but like the pipeline needs to be greater, better yet. I think there needs to be a greater pipeline. And I was telling someone the other day, I was like, well, if you feel that the schools aren't producing candidates that are well enough to work in the business, then why aren't we working with the professors on the curriculum to say like, look, this is what we need. You're not giving us this. Let's kind of mash those up, and then we're getting exactly what we want. Even when the colleges come to visit for like an hour or two, I don't necessarily think there's that conversation between the professor and just the ad recruiter. I don't think that conversation is being had at all. It's more like, oh, well, let's learn about the history, and oh, these ads are funny, and this was added a year, and blah, 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 blah. Like, who gives a shit about that? How about, these are the skill sets that we require. Like, because, and no disrespect to the professors either, but like, the professors are people that were in the business like 20 years ago. It's fucking changed. It's changed.
Kenny, great to chat with you. I think one of the things we learned today was, and the positive thing I would take out of the conversation is that there is still a diversity problem, but your comment about millennials seeing life through non-racist spectacles and possibly feeling that they're as a body of people is encouraging. I think we also, from an advertising and also creative industries point of view, need to fill that pipeline that you talked about, get people interested in coming into the ad business, because I think, once they start knocking on the doors will start to open. I'd certainly put my hand up if you've got anything happening that you need any help with me. I can help. Giving people my jaundiced view on the business. Thank you so much for coming on A Pint with Seaniebee.
No
keep
problem.
up the fight, man, and we'll hopefully in 10 years have a better ad industry that's more full of diversity and hopefully better ads. Take care, brother.
Thank you.